Hello, Garland Nixon. Well, the mask is off of the Biden administration. The neocons, they played the old "we're here for democracy and good people and nice stuff around the world. Wow, we've got to protect people from authoritarian leaders." And now they're pretty much straight out hanging out with the bad guys. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here. Ooh, let me hold on a second here. Okay, I can't. I've got another screen that I run while I'm talking, and I can't have the video of me running while I'm talking because I'm like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm seeing myself. So at any rate, so let's talk. One of the things I find interesting right now is the actions of the Biden administration after the election, after they lost, right? Oftentimes we see, I put it like this, it's like seeing a person around their mom, right? And they're around their mother. You're like, hey, Joe. And he's like, hey, how are you? What's happening, Joe? Everything's just wonderful. How's things been with you? Oh, great. What about yourself? Well, I've been going to church lately and trying to spend more time with the family. Oh, great. Right. And then the guy's mother leaves the room. He's like, hey, dude, let's go drink some beer. We're going to hang out, chase the girlies, blah, blah, whatever. Right. It doesn't matter. Right. And it's like, well, he sure is a different guy when his mom's not around. And, people are like that. Right. And the Biden administration have spent, and this whole neoliberal project, right? We talked about that, the whole woke part of it, right? A big part of that was this fraud. It was, we're the nice guys. It was that veneer of morality, right? We are the good guys. We're the nice guys. And therefore, we'll get your support and you'll work with us because we're trying to do nice and good things. Why? We're not overthrowing that country to steal their oil or for geopolitical advantage. We're doing that because the LGBTQ people, they're not being treated right, or the women are not. They're right. It was always, what has been referred to as liberal interventionism, right? The traditional knuckle draggers, we're going to, the Vikings, right? Hey, there's a city state over there and they have gold and women and this and that. And and their kids could be slaves and blah, blah, blah. We're going to overthrow that city state. We're going to take all of their stuff to the victor. What is it? To the victor go the spoils, right? That is traditional way of thinking, like the neocons think. But to some extent, they needed your support. So they just had to lie to you. And so now, instead of the traditional lies of the Gulf of Tonkin, they shot at us first, so we got to shoot back. Oh, they're what's the other one? We've got to stop communism from spreading, blah, 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 whatever, right? It was always a lie that it was communism, it was ideological, it was something like that, right? But they always had a lie. But now the liberal interventionist lie always boils down to this. We're the good guys. And while what we're doing may appear to be bad to some, it's not. It's good reasons. Ultimately, we have to overthrow this country because the leader's evil and he's not a democracy is needed and blah, blah, blah. And you know what I mean? So all of it was, we're going to do evil things, but we got to say they're good. And we got to really try to convince you that they're good. And we've got to attack and crush anybody who tries to tell you the truth. If some guy stands up in the back and says, look, guys, when I look at what we're doing, I don't think it's the good guys and we're plundering this country and blah, blah, blah. You attack that person. You crush that person. That person's a Putin puppet. That person's a whatever. And it was like the Cold War where everybody was a communist. Right? Hey, that person doesn't think we should be overthrowing this country. Well, of course, that's what a communist would say. And of course, they work for the Soviet Union. So they must be blackballed. They must not be allowed to work, things of that nature, right? The modern day liberal interventionalist now has learned that the road to evil is paved with lies about how good you're doing. So we simply say, yeah, of course we'll overthrow. No, we're not going to overthrow a country. We're going to liberate the people of the country. from their lives. We're going to liberate them from this mortal plane in which we exist. But you don't say that. Sure. Will there be some, unfortunately, maybe a few civilians could lose their lives, but that's a small price to pay for democracy and liberty and things of that nature, right? It's Taiwan. Oh, Taiwan has to have democracy. And what are you going to do? We're going to make them ground zero in a battle between two nuclear powers. Why? Because they need democracy. I read an evaluation that said that Taiwan, basically, and it was supposedly some kind of a political slash military evaluation. And in a nutshell, to sum it up, it was like, yeah, if there's a war, Taiwan will be devastated, torn to pieces. Most of the people killed, but they'll have democracy. In other words, you don't even need the citizens there to have democracy anymore. They can all be dead. The entire island can be blown to smithereens, torn to pieces, the people all dead, but we protected democracy. Democracy is something that exists outside of the human plane. Apparently, it's even outside of our dimension. It's an idea that's more important than human life itself. So that when we use Taiwan as Ukraine 2.0, and it gets destroyed, yeah, sure, did all the people die? But, it was for a good reason. Right now, Ukraine, hey, we're doing this for a good reason. But here's my point, though. Let's get down to the point, right? I'm yapping too much. The point is this. After Trump won and the Democrats and the neocons didn't need, two things. Number one, they're very distressed. They're very anxious. Are they going to be prosecuted? Are they going to be found out? What terrible things are going to happen to them? Number one. Number two, are they going to be able to make an ally out of Trump some kind of way? Are they going to, is their project, their precious ideological project, is it going to fall apart? There's all these questions. So here's what we got. It's your buddy that acts nice when his mom is around, and his mom has left the room, and it's Friday night, and he's going all out, right? He doesn't have to show that he's a nice guy anymore. The Democrats, the neocons, not just the Democrats, but the neocons, period, they now can't win. They're out of the electoral process for the next at least 2 years, and they don't care anymore. They don't need to fool you into thinking that they're the nice guys. They don't need this veneer of moral legitimacy anymore, right? So they're now like, okay, fine, whatever, right? They don't need to pretend that they care about you, right? Hey, you should fill in the blank. Stand 6 feet apart. You should get a jab. You should do all these, wear a mask. Why? Because the government cares about you and we're looking out for your best interest, right? That was COVID. Those who, like myself, had a lot of questions over the government policies about COVID and the government position on the origin of COVID, it was grounded in the fact that we had little or no trust for the government, right? And we never believed that the government was acting in our best interest or looking out for our lives and trying to keep us safe and healthy and alive, right? That's what that was grounded in. And the people, I guess, who went along with all that stuff without questioning it. I'm not saying wouldn't question it. I believe it was grounded in them having significantly more trust in the government and actually having some level of belief that the government was acting in their best interest to help preserve their lives. And that's important because now when the Russians said, look, if you are in a direct conflict with us and you fire attack-ons or long-range missiles into Russia, it could ignite a nuclear conflict, right? The government that actually does that anyway is saying, look, even if there's a nuclear conflict or a world war, which is going to negatively affect your ability to exist, we don't care. So that argument that the government was acting in your best interest, looking out to preserve your lives, went out the window. It's like, you know what? We've lost the election. It don't matter anymore. We don't have to fool the suckers anymore. We don't have to say to the people, you know what? We're looking out for you. We're trying to preserve your life. We're trying to make it up. No. We'll fire attack-ons at the Russians. Yeah, but that could ignite a nuclear war or World War III. So we're not running for office anymore. We never cared. So what? We got bunkers. We'll probably survive. If there's World War III, all the young males, they'll all maybe females, if we can get rid of them, we'll do them just like Ukraine, and we'll throw them all into battle, and hopefully Europe will be destroyed, and China and Russia will be destroyed, and hopefully we'll survive, and then we'll rule the world again. Hooray! Most of the Americans will be killed, but who cares? We're not here for them. That's what, after Trump won, the whole argument that the Biden administration, or that the government period, was there to preserve our lives and look out for our best interests, the whole fraud, the game is up. They don't need that anymore, and they're not doing it, right? And that goes with the argument that they're the good guys. We're the good guys. We're going out around the world doing things because we're the good guys. So what do? If we look historically, people like me and you probably in the chat were saying, wait a minute. We don't trust them. We don't believe them. We think they're lying. And that precipitated this kind of discussion. That precipitated the move to alternative media and the alternative media discussion. There were those who simply said, look, I don't trust them. Let's talk amongst ourselves with people that also don't trust them. And we looked and we said, well, wait a minute. Certain questions we asked. We're the good guys, right? Yeah. And Joe Biden, one of the things that Biden said was, one of the reasons that I ran for office was that I believed, I saw the Charlottesville thingy, and I saw all of these Nazis and white supremacists and blah, 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 marching around. And Joe Biden was so touched by that. He felt so bad by that he ran for president, because he had to stop that. He had to thwart. He couldn't have Nazis and white supremacists. However, apparently that didn't apply to Ukraine. So there were those of us, you guys in the chat, and me and the people that are watching this, who looked at it and said, well, wait a minute. We have a contradiction, right? Though people like us, we don't come out and say it, but we always look for contradictions. We're always comparing what you do with what you say. You've probably heard me say this. What you are is screaming so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So when we heard Joe Biden say that, okay, well, let's take a look at his record. Doesn't show that way. And then we looked and we're like, wait a minute. There's a bunch of guys in Ukraine, and they're goose stepping all over the place, and they're yelling Sieg Heil, and their hands going up, and that they got the black sun symbol. And we looked at all of it, and we looked historically, and we said, well, the United States government can in no way argue that they don't know who these guys are. You've got, I say Azov, I put that in the thumbnail, but you got Ukraine is with these neo-Nazi groups, battalions, whatever, right? You got Azov, you got Right Sector, I could go on and on. You got all of these ones around here. You've got streets named after Stepan Bandera, who was a Nazi collaborator, right? You've got monuments to Nazis and World War II collaborators and actual German Nazis all over Ukraine. So we look at a country, and the culture of part of the culture of that country is a almost a cultural monument to the Third Reich, right? And we're looking at it saying, but you told us that you're the good guys and you hate Nazis and white supremacists and all these kinds of things. There's a contradiction between your foreign policy and your language and your rhetoric, your political rhetoric. That's the best word I'll use, right? So we looked at that, and we saw that we also learned certain things. Some people might not know this. And that was these in Ukraine, these neo-Nazi groups, many of them were like soccer groups, hooligan groups, exercise, workout groups, whatever. And they came together and they became, Nazi groups, white supremacist kind of Nazi, whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to use, these Nazi groups. And they weren't part of the government. They were oftentimes they were financed by oligarchs, and they were used like street gangs and hoodlums and things like that. But after 2014, when the United States government participated, if not generated, a violent overthrow, a violent coup of the government, specifically using these groups, these groups were then integrated into the Ukrainian military, but not until after the United States government we came to power. So I mean, let's not pretend that Ukraine is an independent country. The United States overthrew the government and came to power in 2014. And that's when these groups were officially integrated into the Ukrainian military. Now, here's my point. Now that Trump won, one of the things that's happening in Ukraine is that the Biden people, the neocons, are saying to the Ukrainians, look, you're losing people. You don't have the bodies on the front line, right? You're running out of bodies. You're running out, so what? We send more shells or weapons. You don't have anybody to fire them. So the Biden administration is now not even pretending anymore to care about the Ukrainians. Because remember, this was about Ukraine, democracy, saving Ukraine from the evil Russians. Putin wants to overthrow Russia, blah, blah, blah. And now what are they saying? What they're saying is we need to lower the draft age to 18 in Ukraine. Why? Because we're running out of bodies. And they're saying the teenagers need to, quote, join in the fight. And apparently, if you look at what's happening in Ukraine, the fight isn't like hand-to-hand combat. It isn't like soldiers who are running at other soldiers with bayonets, out charging each other, fighting it out. It has now become a bunch of Ukrainian people gathered in an area while artillery rounds and bombs and Fab 3,000 bombs and things like that drop on them. It's now they're being torn to shreds by artillery. Well, I guess theoretically, at any age, you can be torn to shreds by artillery. But the U.S. now, the neocons have stopped pretending that they care about the Ukrainians. They've stopped pretending that this has anything to do with preserving the lives or the culture or the politics of Ukraine. Now they're straight out in the open. Look, this war needs to go on. And the only way it can go on is if more Ukrainians die. And the only way more Ukrainians can die is if more Ukrainians are in the army. So what we need to do is we need to get more Ukrainians in the army. And they're like, get into the fight. In other words, stand around and get torn to shreds by artillery. The Biden administration has stopped. You don't even hear they don't even bother anymore. They're not like, yes, Putin is going to charge into Poland, and after that he's heading for whatever, the English Channel. They ain't bothering with that. They've dispensed with the false rhetoric. Now they're just like, look, this is what we need. Let's get some more money to Ukraine. Of course, that's going to be laundered. I think the other day, the Biden administration backed like a $20 billion loan that comes out of the money that's made off the seized Russian assets. And they're like, hey, we got to get more money to Ukraine. Everybody knows that some of that money, a small percentage, is going to go in weapons, but a large percentage is going to be pilfered by the criminals. They don't care anymore. Here's $20 billion. Hey, can we pilfer most of it? I don't care. Here's $20 billion. Just keep this war going. Can you throw some 18-year-olds in the fight? Yeah, but they'll all be torn to shreds. Yeah, that's their jobs. Who gives a shit? Send them, go. Here's the 20 billion. And you tend to think that maybe there were some deals made, right? Here's the 20 billion, and you'll get the 20 billion if you throw some more young Ukrainians at Russian artillery. Now, add this. South Korea. What happened recently in South Korea? A guy who is the ostensible president, leader, whatever you want to call him, of South Korea, suddenly woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to be a complete and total military dictator. The guy came out and said, I'm outlawing everything. The parliament, I'm going to outlaw everything. Think about this. The president of South Korea said, no laws, no nothing, military rule. The parliament, nobody has any say in anything. I'm in charge. He sent like paratroopers, literally. He sent these paratroopers to the parliament building to secure the parliament building. Luckily, he's had police surrounded. Luckily, members of the parliament crashed through the police lines, went in. They literally were putting up tables and chairs and blockades so the paratroopers couldn't get in so they could vote, because the parliament had the right to vote, overthrow this martial law that was enacted by the president of South Korea, a guy who I think at the time he had 18% approval rating, right? Now, if you know anything about South Korea, You know that the United States created South Korea. You know that in the event of military, the United States takes full 100% control of South Korea. That South Korea has, I forgot how many, 300, 600,000, whatever it is, soldiers in their military, and like 3.5 or 3.1 million reservists, so that South Korea is critical in the neocons' plan to go to war with China. That's going to be Ukraine. They're going to throw all of those soldiers in and get South Korea flattened, bombed, get all of them killed, but they'll use them as proxies against China. That's the plan for South Korea. That's the plan for the Philippines. That's the plan for Japan. All of those, you guys, you're going to fight China. You're going to get wiped out. You're going to be the proxy, and we'll sit back and throw you at China, right? But in their desperation, since Trump won, they got another month, or at that time, month and a half left. They were like, hey, I got an idea. We need a war on the Korean Peninsula. You know what they were doing. Why? First of all, a country that is fully occupied, a colony like South Korea that has no independence whatsoever, right? A country, a colony that's fully occupied by U.S. bases, completely and totally economically and politically and culturally controlled by the U.S., that's being set up to be Ukraine. And suddenly one day, just before Trump is about to come in this little interregnum, as they say, when one system is dying and another is being born. I ain't saying Trump's good, bad, or he's changing anything. I'm just saying this is the way the neocons see it. All of a sudden, this guy just wakes up on his own and says, think I'll declare martial law. Who believes that? That's got Tony Blinken written all over it. They clearly were planning on starting a war on the Korean Peninsula. They probably were planning on sending them, this whole North Koreans are fighting in Russia. They're probably planning on sending South Korean soldiers, South Korean military, having South Korea do something, maybe start this war with China, start a war on the Korean Peninsula. So now they got this guy with an 18% approval rating. They're going to declare martial law. So they're not like, hey, we're standing for democracy now. They were like, who cares about this whole, look, the jig is up. Nobody believes this anymore. Nobody believes about democracy. Who cares? Right? So we got Ukraine. Hey, let's go with the 18-year-olds. We got South Korea. Let's do some martial law there and we'll move into war. Right now, of course, I don't have to tell you about Zionism. It's obvious now what's going on there. But Zionism, now here's the thing about it. The jihadi fighters, as we call them, the U.S. mercenaries, everybody around the world. Remember the whole Crocus thing in Russia? And we found out that these are some jihadi fighters from Tajikistan or whatever. And everybody who knows anything around the world about jihadi fighters said, yeah, that's the U.S. That's what they said. That's the U.S. Jihadi fighters, people like me and a lot of us who have long ago tied these neocons to the jihadi fighters. We would ask this question: why is it that these ISIS jihadi groups, they attack Russia, they blow up buses full of Chinese engineers and Chinese workers that are working in Pakistan on Belt and Road Initiative, building dams, whatever the hell, right? They blow them up. They're attacking Iran, they're attacking Russia, they're attacking China. They're jihadi fighters, but for some reason they always attack the adversaries of the neocons, but they never attack the U.S. anymore. And they seem not to have a problem with Israel. Isn't that odd? Now, what do we find out? We find out that the neo-Nazis in Ukraine were working with the ISIS fighters now think about this. The neo-Nazis in Ukraine are working with ISIS fighters in Syria and Israel. Gee, that's in horse racing, that's called the trifecta. You ever heard the trifecta in horse racing? That's when, let's say there's 10 horses racing and you bet on 3. You say, I'm going to pick 1, 2, it's win, place, and show, right? Is 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to bet on the top 3. And you can bet and say, I want to get them in order, or you can bet and say any order, as long as I get the top 3, you hit the trifecta, right? And it pays pretty well. I don't do much horse race betting. Well, there was a time when I did a little bit. And I know one time, years and years ago, when I bet them, this was a long time ago, I was young, and I bet $2 on the trifecta and I hit it and I got $72, right? So, I mean, that trifecta can win, place, and show. So that can really pay off. Well, here's all I'm saying is we've got the Zionist, ISIS, neo-Nazi trifecta right there. They all came together. Now, what do you have? You've got Israel bombing Syria, taking part of Syria. You've got the Ukrainians who apparently worked with the ISIS jihadis in order to teach them about drones so they could fight, right? This is so now the neocons in one former country that is now, Libya part 2, in one former country, Zionists, neo-Nazis, and ISIS. Now, let me add this. That tells you something about Zionism, doesn't it? See, because the neo-Nazis, think about this. The neo-Nazis are supposed to hate Jews, aren't they? They're supposed to want to kill Jews. They hate Jews. Jews are the worst thing to them. They're absolutely supposed to be the most anti-Semitic people on earth. But they're happy to work with the Zionists, aren't they? How about ISIS? They're supposed to be diehard Muslims, right? And they're supposed to hate the Jews. Oh, these people are supposed to be the most anti-Semitic, anti-Jews. Think about this, what we're saying here. The two groups that are supposed to be, that we're told are the most anti-Semitic groups on earth, that the foundation of their culture, that everything they stand for is hating Jewish people, right? Are working with the Zionists. Now, I would ask this, what can we learn from that? That's easy. What we can learn from that is that Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism. That Zionism uses Judaism. Zionism uses Jewish people as a human shield, right? Zionism is to me, let me say this. What we're seeing is this. The brethren are all coming together. Those three groups are all the same group. They are fascist groups. The ISIS people, I'm supposed to believe that they have any a connection to Islam? Absolutely not. No connection to Islam whatsoever, right? This is just a fact. I put it like this. These ISIS jihadis are to Islam what Zionism is to Judaism. They're a disgrace. They use it as a cover so that they can do their evil deeds. They use it as a cover so they can get away with doing terrible things in the name of something, instead of just saying, yeah, we're mercenaries, we're thieves, we're liars, we're criminals, cutthroats, we're the worst people on earth. No, they simply use the veneer of religion in order to do that. Now, you got to give credit to the neo-Nazis. They don't even play that. They don't even try. What are you doing? What do the neo-Nazis in Ukraine say? We're here to lead the white races and to control the world. I mean, you got to give them credit. They are. They're like, hey, we're neo-Nazis. Come on. Who are we going to fool, right? This little insignia on my lapel. There ain't no way to play that off as a nice guy. So why bother? So at least I'll give the neo-Nazis credit. They don't try to pretend to be the nice guys. The Zionists now have gotten to a point where they are pretty straight out fascists, and the Zionists are now pretty open with, we are the chosen people, although their Zionism isn't Judaism. Again, they just use it. And think about this. The Zionists use Judaism to say we're the chosen people, even though a tremendous proportion of Zionists are actually atheists, but they say we are the chosen people. Why? That gives us the license to do anything we want. God chose us. So come on. If you argue with us, you're arguing with God. Remember this? Hey, if you argue with Fauci, you're arguing with science. Come on. Mr. Fauci was science, right? If you argue with him, you're arguing with science. If you disagree with him, you're disagreeing with science. They created that connection, which means you can't disagree with them or argue with them, because who wants to argue with science, right? The Zionists, well, we are the chosen people, so therefore, if you push back or disagree with us, you're pushing back or disagreeing with God. God made this decision. Who are we? Don't hate the messenger. Zionists are the messengers, right? So it's that game. And of course, the neo-Nazis are pretty simple. Hey, we're neo-Nazis. What else can we say? And you're like, yeah, I got to give you credit, neo-Nazis. You're the most open. They're the out there, right? They're out of the closet. They're out of the closet dancing around. Look at me. I'm a neo-Nazi. What do? Well, we torture people. We'll kill people. We steal stuff. We're neo-Nazis. Whatever. We're not trying to pretend to be good guys, right? So of the three groups, I would have to say, in a perverse and twisted kind of way, the most respectable are the neo-Nazis, because they're evil. And they're like, come on, we're neo-Nazis. What are we supposed to say? We're not trying to be like Jewish people. We're not trying to be Muslim. We're not even really trying to be Christian. We're just, hey, here's a picture of Stepan Bandera. It's who we are. Accept it, right? Accept us for who we are, right? But my point being this: if you get back to the reality of the Biden administration and the neocons, this is really the most pure time ever for neocons. It's really pure. Think about it. Most of the time, the neocons have some concern with image, right? For the last 4 years, there was image. Like, think about it. During the Trump administration, what did the neocons say? We're trying to protect you from Trump. Why? Because Trump is an evil Russian bot, and we want democracy here, and our democracy is being thwarted by Trump and the Russians, and we've got to stop it. Again, the veneer of goodness. We're doing good things. We're trying to protect our democracy, right? If you remember, one of the things that Mark Milley claimed was that Trump was going to start a nuclear war with China, and he had to call the Chinese, and he had to tone it down, and he had to save us because this crazy Trump was going to start a nuclear war with China, right? So during the Trump administration, they pretended like they were protecting us from Trump. They were protecting us from the madness of Trump. They were protecting us from Russia and Putin and whoever's going to. That was about protecting us. Hey, come on, don't hate the neocons. They're just trying to protect us, guys. Liberal interventionism. They're intervening out there in other countries for good things, to protect those people from autocracy and stuff like that, right? They're intervening back at home with Trump or whoever to protect us from the autocrats that are going to come here, right? We've got to save democracy in Libya and Russia, wherever, and we got to save democracy in the US now. So it's our turn to get screwed over the same way. It's our turn to get treated the same way they treated the people of Ukraine or Libya or wherever, because they had to save us just like they had to save them. They had to protect us just like they had to protect them. So it was their way of protection. Okay. And they used that veneer. They used that fake fraud game. And even when Biden was in, 4 years of we're standing up against evil, blah, blah, blah. Now Trump wins. Man, isn't it interesting? Because one of the things that I find interesting about this little interregnum period, right? When an old thing is dying and a new is being done, when a new is being born. And here's the thing. We know what the old one was. We don't know what the new one is. Now, of course, I'm sure there'll be people in the chat. If we do, Trump is and you fill in the blank. Trump is a fill in the blank. He's just a neocon. We don't know what Trump is. Trump's just a whatever. He's going to lie, all lies. He's not going to go along with anything he said. He's just a Zionist. Yeah, I'll give you that. But the truth is, I don't know what the hell he's going to do. But we'll find out. There's some things are going to be different. Some things are going to be the same. But I'm not a charlatan. A charlatan is the person who pretends to have special knowledge. Oh, what are you talking about, Garland? I know exactly what it's going to be. The false, to me, there's nothing worse than false certainty, right? And I say it in the chat sometimes. Trump is, and they, boom, this is, forget it. Now, I'm just saying, that's not to say to the people in the chat, don't make the comments that you believe to be true. I welcome that. And that's not to say that some of them you aren't wrong. Some of you who may be in the chat or wherever say, no, Garland, you're wrong. Trump's like this, this, or this. Some of you may be right. So I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying to do these things. But I think Trump's different. How that affects things, I don't know. And someone in the chat said Trump is transactional. I agree with. And it's transactional in this way. As I said, transactional. What does that mean? Here's the way I've always put it: WIIFM, right? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for us? What's in it for my group? What's in it for my company? What's in it for us? As opposed to, hey, we've got this ideology of hegemony and we're willing to spend all the money in the world. Trump asked this question: why we have all of those troops in South Korea? For God's sake, that's expensive. And how come South Korea is not paying us more? I mean, they want our troops there, so they should pay us more. Well, okay, that's a transactional view. Here's the reality of it: they don't want our troops there. We want our troops there. And so therefore, we pay for it because that's another way of money laundering for the military industrial complex and all these contractors that handle that, right? So we want them there for money laundering reasons. We want them there because the neocons want to start a war with China and they want to use the troops. They want to use that South Korea as a giant military base, an expendable giant military base, I might, okay? So my point is, where the neocons say we got to have South Korea as a military outpost to use to help us control that area of the world, Trump's like, what's in it for us? Why the hell we got troops that we're spending all of this money? So you're right, he's transactional. In that way, he is different. In that way, he is a threat to them simply because he has a different ideological perspective. Whether he'll do anything or whatever, I don't know. Can't tell you that. But does he have a different ideological perspective? If you have one group that says we need South Korea as a base so we can go to war with China or anybody else we need to in the region. We need that base. I don't care what it costs us. Print more money. To another guy that says, what the hell do we have all these troops there? It's cost us a fortune. If they don't want to pay for the troops, we need to get the hell out of there. Don't tell me that it's not a different way of thinking. It is. Whether he can support that way of thinking, whether the outcomes will reflect that, I don't know. But don't tell me that ain't a different way of thinking, because it is. Okay. And this is not pro or negative Trump. I'm just evaluating things as I see them. Now, my point that I'm getting to with all of this is where we are now in this period, masked off for the Biden administration. Look what they've done. They went all 4 years. What you're seeing is this. These are the things that they really wanted to do the last 4 years, but they were a little worried. They were image conscious, right? They got 2 months. They ain't image conscious. You're seeing the real neocons, the real Biden. What are they going to do? We'll tear Syria to pieces. We'll give Israel a piece of it so they can have what they want. We'll divvy it up so we can steal the oil where we want, where to want. Let me tell you something about that. Oh, Lord, are they going to be sorry for what they've done in Syria? You know, I hear immediately what I've seen people say is, that's it. The Israel won, the U.S. empire won, and the axis of resistance is completely lost, and all is lost. You know, I'll put it like this. It's a short-term way of seeing things. And I keep saying countries like Russia, countries like Iran, countries like China, civilizations that have been around for 1,000 years and some thousands of years have a different perspective. And when something happens, they don't look at it as what's going on this week or next week or last week. Will there be some recriminations? Absolutely. But they understand that there's a long-term vision here. And now I'll put it like this. I would not want a country that is falling apart and that is being run by jihadis on my border. That ain't gonna work out well. Those jihadis at some point, see, one of the things you're going to find with the jihadis is this. There are various factions. They'll fight amongst each other and everything. That's what you see in Libya. Various factions, warlords, jihadis fighting against each other, right? But within that, there will be factions. Alexander Mercouris said it before I could get it out of my mouth. There will be factions that say, yeah, we really do hate the Jews, and let's go do some attacks on Israel. And they ain't going to play by any rules. And they're not going to be tied to Iran or any axes of resistance. They ain't going to be no rules. And those kind of peoples will show up with suicide bombers, car bombs, some guy showing up at a market with a machine gun and just machine gunning everybody and then blowing himself up. 10 guys show up in Tel Aviv and blow the hell out of each other and everything near them. Let me tell you something. Israel, will rue the damn day that they did this. Oh, they will cry many a tears, because the kind of terrorism that they will see um, is going to be nasty. Now, somebody said the empire thinks it can control the jihadis. And you know what I said? But people always hear my statement. It always works like this. It's like having a pet, a guard dog versus a mad dog. You got a guard dog, you can control the guard dog. Hey, Sparky, bite. And you point, and he goes over there and he bites the person. And he comes back and he sits there and he protects you. A guard dog, you were walking down the street, you kick a dog, he runs off, he's scared. He's not trained to protect himself. He's trained to protect his master. That's what I say a lot about a lot of politicians. They're like guard dogs. They're not trained to protect themselves. They're trained to protect their masters. Okay. And when people think they can get something out of these politicians, even by threatening the politician, they don't care. You can beat, slap, and kick them. They're trained to protect their masters. These jihadis are not a guard dog. They're a mad dog. And let's say you got Cujo, right? You got this mad, slobbering, crazy, rabid dog who just wants to attack and bite anything anywhere around it, right? You ain't controlling that guy. He ain't listening to you. They could care less. They got another plan, and it ain't involving you. And let me add this. The Zionists are ultimately the same, and the neo-Nazis are ultimately the same. You got the same group here. And the time will come when these neocons figure out that they ain't got control over any of them, that you think you're controlling them, but at some point they feel like this. Yes, we'll work with the United States because they'll give us arms, they'll give us weapons, they'll give us intelligence, they'll give us all the things we need to accomplish our goal. And here's the way they feel. And when we finish it, when we finish that, then we'll have our caliphate, we'll run the whole world, and the U.S. will buckle down, right? You know what I mean? They're ultimately, their plan is to betray you, which is interesting because the empire is the same way. You've got two entities. The empire is working with jihadis, is working with the Zionists, is working with the neo-Nazis, and all of them, all of these groups plan, interestingly enough, is to use the other group to accomplish their means, and once they've accomplished their means, to betray those who have worked with them. All of them have the same plan. So the U.S. is like, we'll use the neo-Nazis until we get what we want. And then, I don't know, what do you think we should do once we've taken over Russia and China and everything, and we got these neo-Nazis in Ukraine? I don't know. Let's just bomb them and kill them all. Fair enough. Maybe we can nuke them. Yeah, who cares? Ukraine will nuke them. Ultimately, they're going to utilize them. Look, the U.S. says, yes, we've got all of these leaders in Taiwan and they're working with us. And so they've got these sold out leaders in Taiwan that's selling out Taiwan. What do you think their plans are for those people ultimately? You think they're planning on bringing them back to the United States? No. They're planning on getting Taiwan nuked, blown to hell, and all of them dead, and they'll be done with them. Ultimately, their plan is to utilize these people and ultimately at some point betray them. And that's the plan that fascists have for everybody. That is a plan of narcissism. That's a plan of sociopath. And that is, everybody around me is nothing but a tool to be used for my narcissistic, to feed my narcissism or my sociopathy. Right? You're going to work with me. A sociopath or a narcissist can be very nice to you. They can be very charming to get you to do something that they want you to do, or give them something, or to benefit them. They can be the nicest, most charming people in the world to get what they want. And then they could care less. When they're done with you, they just as soon cut your throat, throw you apart, and throw you aside. They don't care. Ultimately, they're going to betray you if you ever become a burden for them. And that's the way these sociopaths and narcissists work. And that's the way these groups work. But my point in all of this is, now, if you ever wondered who the neocons really were, if you ever wondered what the Biden administration would do if they were untethered, if they were freed from the narratives of liberal intervention where they had to keep arguing that they're the nice guy, they are now freed from that. And now you see who they are, and the world gets to see who they are. And all of whether it was Vladimir Putin or the Chinese leaders, or whether it was Assad or the Chinese, the Venezuelans. You remember Hugo Chavez? Years ago, Hugo Chavez came to the UN and he gave a speech about George W. Bush. And he basically said, I can smell sulfur after the Bush people spoke. In other words, these people are demons. They're Satan himself. You know, metaphorically speaking, they're absolutely from the bowels of hell. Okay. And he was right. And they still are. But they had to fake it. Isn't it beautiful? In a way, in a twisted way, but in a philosophical kind of way, right? It is truly beautiful if you're evaluating geopolitics to finally look at the neocons and see them who they are. You know what what's interesting about this period of time? Let me ask you this. Have you seen Joe Biden give a talk to the American people? American people, I'm bombing Syria. I'm involved in another war. I've been dragged you into another war in Syria. I better have a late night talk with the American people. I'll be on the air Wednesday night at 8 p.m. No, no. I'm going to go to Congress and say, Congress, I'm bombing a country. I'm overthrowing a government. I'm going to war, and the Constitution requires. No, nothing. No talks to the American people. No discussions with Congress. No nothing. The neocons are now just simply gone on a rampage, right? Overthrowing this country, attacking Russia, and they just about overthrew South Korea, but they couldn't get away with it. God bless the people of South Korea who took to the streets. God bless the parliament of South Korea who said, you know what? This ain't going to happen. It's not going to let it happen. And they acted. And so I think it's wonderful what the people of South Korea did and what the parliament did. Now the South Koreans are trying to investigate the president, but of course the police forces were involved in trying to help the president execute his martial law edict. So how the hell are they going to investigate him? But the bottom line is the cat is out of the bag. That guy has practically no, I heard 12 or 13% approval rating. The South Korean president now is not enacting his duties. He's not performing his duties. Apparently he has like an assistant or something that's performing his duties, which is unconstitutional. There's no place in the South Korean constitution that allows that. This guy's supposed to be locked up and arrested. But let me ask you this. Have you heard a peep from the neocons about that? Have you heard the people who did? Remember this? We're having a summit for democracy. Remember Biden's summit for democracy? We're going to bring together all the democratic leaders from around the world and talk about how we can stop the autocrats from around the world. This guy tried to overthrow the whole government and enact martial law. Martial law. Not a peep from the Biden administration to condemn it. Of course, they're not going to condemn it because they were the ones doing it. There's no way this guy, I've said it from the very beginning. If you know, I had KJ No on the other day, and I said, there ain't no way in hell that the South Korean president would try that without Tony Blinken. That it smells like stinks of Tony Blinken all over it. Let me add this. I need to have Ray McGovern on too. I'm telling you, I will guarantee you this, that Joe Biden will do sweeping pardons. And I need to bring on Ray McGovern specifically to talk about Russiagate and some of the people that will get sweeping pardons. Adam Schiff will damn sure get a sweeping pardon, and I'll give you one reason why. When he was running the whatever committee that he was running in Congress, and they were constantly going after Trump, he was constantly leaking stuff. Leaking classified information, leaking stuff, right? I think the Trump people, if Trump lives to get in office and is able to enact his policies, I think one of the things I have read and heard recently that the Trump people want to look back and they want to go after people who were leaking, that they want to prosecute these leakers. Adam Schiff was up to no good. I think the sweeping pardons will come. Definitely Adam Schiff's going to get one. Tony Blinken's got to get one. For starters, he was involved in the 51 intelligence officials who said that the Hunter Biden laptop had the earmarks of Russian disinformation, right? That's another part of this conversation. I could go on and on. I'll talk to Comey, or probably Ray, all these things, right? The lies for the FISA. The lies that they put in the FISA application to the FISA court in order to get warrants to tap Carter Page and stuff like that, George Papadopoulos, a lot of that stuff. So what you're going to see, Joe Biden again, the mask of we're here, no man is above the law. Remember that? No man's above the law. And so we have to go after Trump, right? Well, guess what? As soon as Joe Biden pardoned Hunter, people were like, hey, I thought you said no man was above the law. And all of these Democrats were like, there was weeping and gnashing of teeth. Notice you didn't hear anything from Joe Biden. You don't hear anything about him overthrowing countries. You don't hear anything about his administration trying to overthrow the government of South Korea. You don't hear anything about the pardons and all that. Why? Because during this period, the mask is off. Joe Biden, look, that was bullshit. All of it was bullshit. The idea that the Biden administration gave a crap about who was or wasn't above the law, it was lies. They were going after Trump. They were using lawfare to take him out. Simple as that. They were going to take Trump out so he can't win. We're going to charge him. We're going to find him guilty. And then we're going to say, hey, he's been found guilty. He shouldn't be president. Do you remember this? People forgot this. And I guarantee if you trace it, it comes back to the White House. Several states literally tried to take Trump off the ballot. And like he won most of those states. You know what I mean? It was, I think Minnesota was one of the states. He won Minnesota, I think. Didn't he win Minnesota? I think he won all of the swing states, right? I think not all of them, but he won some of them. So they literally tried to, the people who were standing up for democracy, people forgot about this. And that should be looked into and investigated. They literally tried to take the damn man off the ballot. And it makes sense because a number of states in the primaries the Democrats wouldn't allow anybody on the ballot, even though Dean Phillips was running, Marianne Williamson was running, RFK Jr. was running. I know Florida, Tennessee, Massachusetts, North Carolina. I know for sure those states only allowed Joe Biden's name on the ballot. Think about that. We got a primary. All right, who you want to vote for? I'm voting for Dean Phillips. Sorry, he ain't on the ballot. Okay, RFK Jr. Not on the ballot. Marianne Phillips. No. Williamson. No. Only Joe Biden's name is the only name on the ballot. You want to talk about a fascist country? You want to talk about a military dictatorship? There's only one name on the ballot. And they tried to do the same damn thing for the general election. They tried to overthrow the government. That's like military dictatorship. That's martial law, throwing Trump off the ballot. The difference is they tried to be sneaky and clandestine. First, at least, they're like, okay, let's trump up some charges, find him guilty. Boom, then we'll say he can't be on the ballot. At least we have some legal argument for that, some legal foundation for why he can't be on the ballot. We can't just throw him off the ballot because this is, in fact, a military dictatorship and an oligarchy. Screw that, right? Well, it didn't work, and Trump blew him out. Now, in this interregnum, into this little 2-month, whatever period, amount of time period it is, they don't give a shit now. They don't care. And they're overthrowing countries. And I, for one, would not be shocked if they just say, screw it. We ain't going to let Trump take power. Right? When they say, all right, it's January 20th, Trump's coming to power. Remember this. They tell you who they are. All these lies that they tell, all these attacks that they make on other people are always demonstrated. They're always a mirror. It's always demonstrating who they are. Remember this. We're afraid Trump will not allow an orderly transition of power. Remember that? Didn't they tell us that? At the same time, they were trying to throw him off the ballot. They told us they were concerned that the man who they were trying to throw off the ballot, so the American people couldn't choose him if they wanted to vote for him, they were concerned that he was the one who was going to say, yeah, I'm not going to go with an orderly transition of power because if I lose. Well, they were telling you that they're not down for an orderly transition of power. And now that we're in a mask off period, and now that they're like, screw it, let's go. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, hey, 18 in Ukraine. You think that's a little high? How tall do kids have to be before they can hold guns? Well, we got 6-year-olds with toy guns. Throw them on the front line. Let's drop it all the way down to 6 years old, girls and boys, and we'll give them toys or something to play with. So while they're on the front line, we'll give them like toy soldiers and toy tanks that they can play around in with pedals on them, and they'll think they're just playing a game. And then when the artillery comes in and tears them to shreds, the Russians will have to use more artillery. Yes. And they're little, they're harder to hit. Oh boy, we're going to kill all the Ukrainians. Let's go down to 6-year-olds. I mean, what the hell? They don't care anymore. Why not go down to babies? They don't care. Old people, if you're a Ukrainian, when they said to the last Ukrainian, damn it, they meant it. And they are sick and tired of this facade of niceness. They've had it. Let's get rid of all of these Ukrainians before. I guess they figured, if Trump comes to power and he gets some kind of a deal, there may be some Ukrainians left. We can't have that. We said the last Ukrainians, they want an empty country. They want a blank landscape with no Ukrainians in it. That's how you support the Ukrainians, by making sure they're all dead, apparently. They don't care. They've overthrown it. Who cares now? Lebanon, Egypt, whatever. They'll probably go ahead and destabilize those countries. And of course, somewhere around January 20th, they'll be like, yes, we think we need to send 1 million people to the the House of Representatives building and to the Capitol to wander through and over. And you're going to be like, but I thought you were pissed about January 6th. Yeah, we weren't really. We were just mad that we didn't do it. But our people are going to be armed and they're going to kill everybody. You Republicans just don't know how to do it right. What do they care anymore? What do they care? They're allied with the most evil bastards on earth. And think about this. In a way, the neocons are probably celebrating. Really, if you think about it, they're probably like, all these years, these long years, we had to pretend that we were something that we weren't. We had to hide in the closet. We had to pretend that we were nice and friendly and interventional and liberal and blah, 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 all this crap. And now, look at me. I feel free. I'm dancing around. Kill, murder, overthrow, martial law, destroy, lawfare, charge. Hooray! They're free. They're twirling around and dancing. Oh, these neocons are having a good time now. But this crap could really go bad. And Syria is one. Oh, Libya is a little further away. It's actually in Africa. It's actually African countries after Africa. So they kind of can get away with that because they pushed it a little further away. This is right in the middle. And the Israelis are going to be in Syria. Trust me when I tell you this ain't going to work out well. It's going to be bad. So at any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. Let me look and see. Let me check one other thing. Believe it or not, you might want to say, why is Garland actually looking at his phone? Because I got to go get a haircut. And I want to see if my guy, my barber texted me. All right, okay, so let's go. We can at least, before I go, we're going to look at the super chats. We're going to look at, okay. So Sparkster says, Iran, Hezbollah, and Ansar knew Syria was vulnerable in the last couple of years, so it wasn't a reliable supply line. Isn't likely they've been using alternate supply lines for a while now. Yes. Look, let me tell you something about that. People can always find a way. In the same way, if you build a wall, they'll go over it, they'll go under it. People will find a way. In prison, if you ever go and see I've gone to prison and you had this room and they have all the things that they found that the prisoners have made, sharpened a toothbrush and put a razor blade on the end of it to make a weapon, and all of these things that you could never imagine. Wow, they used that to cook with, all these things that they found when they sweep through the cells, that the prisoners, people are ingenious and they want to get weapons there. Trust me, they'll find a way. How about we go next to Cobb Fan? The nakedness of imperial intent is now clear. You couldn't have said it better. No longer can they hide behind fake concern for human rights and decency. There's a guy that's smarter than me, and he can phrase it much better. That was brilliant, Cobb Fan. Sparkster says, shouldn't Iran have its response attack on Israel now? While Israel tries to sort out Syria, Trump can say it happened under Biden. If they wait, Trump may take it personally. Look, Iran will fire on Syria, on Israel, when it benefits them the most. Right now, I don't see a benefit for them. I don't see, they could retaliate, but I don't see a benefit for them. They will do it only if it benefits them and only when it benefits them. I don't see a benefit for them. So I don't think they do it right now. I think they're holding off. I think a lot of people, to be quite frank, are holding their fire until Trump comes in. I think the Russians are going to smash Ukraine to pieces every bit they can, so that when Trump gets in, there won't be much left to negotiate about. So, but I think a lot of people are also, or some are holding their fire and waiting for a negotiation period with Trump. So we shall see what the Iranians, they may, but they will only if they think it benefits them. Syria will be a quagmire for the West, 100% agree. And Erdogan's going to rue the day he did it also. Thanks, Dino Pantalucas. Wow, hey, that sounds very Greek. I got a lot of Greek friends. Had a lot of I used to literally go to the meetings up in Baltimore for the Hellenic Society, and I had a lot of Greek friends that owned restaurants, and it was great. I'd go to their restaurant meetings. This was unbelievable. Greek restaurants are the best. And what you do was all of these companies that wanted to sell stuff to these restaurants, like you'd have guys that would have steaks or this or that, and they'd all come into the restaurant owners and they'd say, everybody try this. We've cooked it. And it's to see if you want to buy our steaks or whatever for your restaurant. They give them bottles of wine to try to get them. And I'm there. And like, it was kind of obvious I wasn't Greek, but I guess they thought I was a restaurant owner. I was just there because I had friends there. And they like give me this stuff and I'd leave. I'm like, I don't even drink, but hey, thanks for 5 bottles of wine and steaks and all this kind of stuff. And it was fantastic. So I got so many great friends. I'd go to their Orthodox church bazaar thing in the spring and they'd have all this awesome food. Oh, I love the Greek people. Got such great, wonderful Greek friends. Darren says, Schiff also withheld testimony of the CrowdStrike CEO. Yes. Who said that no data was taken from Dean? Yeah, Schiff's dirty. Schiff's dirty. And they're going to give him sweeping pardons or he'll go to jail. Sparky, in the case of sweeping pardons, the individual state should conspire to go after the people pardoned. They may all end up fleeing to other countries, but it'll still help some as a deterrent. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. That's a good point, Sparkster. Oh, how about this? Sparkster says, at the Ukrainian recruit processing stations, they need one of those. You must be this tall to ride the roller coaster sides with the facsimile of Zelensky holding up his hand. Yeah, you're right. You must be this tall to catch a artillery round and get torn to shreds. How about Red Chili Pepper? Thank you very much, my brother. Hey, wow, $4.99. Certainly, thank you. All right, that's it, everybody. Ooh. Anybody from Rockfin? Okay. Do we have any? That's weird. Maybe my stream's not running from Rockfin. It should be, but it doesn't appear to be. I don't know what the hell's going on, Rockfin. What are you doing to me here? What are you doing? It shows that I'm live. It says currently watching. I don't know what the hell's going on with Rockfin. Currently watching 0. I don't know. Okay, forget it. I don't know what's going on with Rockfin. But at any rate, thanks a lot, everybody. I certainly appreciate it. Share this on all your social media platforms. And last but not least, look, if you can afford it, if you can become a Patreon member or PayPal, buy me a coffee is great. You can just do buy me a coffee, buy Garland a coffee. How much? $5. How many coffees? 1, 2, 3, whatever. And that's simple. And buy me a coffee is now like Patreon, where you can do, I want to be a monthly contributor, buy Garland a monthly coffee, whatever. So if you can afford it, it's highly appreciated. If not, just share this on all your social media platforms. And everybody, please attack and the like button, hit the like button, click on the like button, elbow the like button, bite the like button, do anything you can. Terminate the like button with extreme prejudice. I'm out.